John F. Kennedy was the 35th leader of the U.S., 1961 to 1963, the most youthful man chose for the workplace. On November 22, 1963, when he was not really past his initial 1,000 days in office, JFK was killed in Dallas, Texas, turning out to be likewise the most youthful president to kick the bucket. On November 22, 1963, when he was not really past his initial 1,000 days in office, John Fitzgerald Kennedy was killed by a professional killer's slugs as his motorcade twisted through Dallas, Texas. Kennedy was the most youthful man chosen president. He was the most youthful to kick the bucket. Of Irish drop, he was brought into the world in Brookline, Massachusetts, on May 29, 1917. Moving on from Harvard in 1940, he entered the naval force. In 1943, when his PT boat was smashed and sunk by a Japanese destroyer, Kennedy, regardless of grave wounds, drove the survivors through risky waters to somewhere safe and secure. Back from the conflict, he turned into a vote-based senator from the Boston region, progressing in 1953 to the Senate. He wedded Jacqueline Bouvier on September 12, 1953. In 1955, while recovering from a back activity, he composed Profiles in Boldness, which won the Pulitzer Prize ever. In 1956, Kennedy nearly acquired the majority rule selection for VP, and after 4 years was a first polling form chosen one for president. Millions watched his TV banters with the conservative up-and-comer, Richard M. Nixon. Winning just barely in the well-known vote, Kennedy turned into the main Roman Catholic president. His debut address offered the significant order, and quote, "Ask not how your nation can help. You ask how you can help your country." End quote. As president, he set off on a mission to reclaim his mission promised to get America rolling once more. His financial projects sent off the nation on its longest supported development since the Second Great War. Before his passing, he laid plans for a monstrous attack on persevering pockets of privation and destitution. Answering perpetually earnest requests, he made a lively move in the reason for equivalent freedoms, calling for new social liberties regulation. His vision of America reached out to the nature of the public culture and the focal job of human expressions in a fundamental society. He wished America to continue its old mission as the primary country committed to the unrest of basic liberties. With the Partnership for Progress and the Harmony Corps, he carried American vision to the guide of emerging countries. Be that as it may, the hard truth of the socialist test remained. Shortly after his initiation, Kennedy allowed a band of Cuban exiles, currently furnished and prepared, to attack their country. The endeavor to oust the system of Fidel Castro was a disappointment. Before long, the Soviet Association restored its mission against West Berlin. Kennedy answered by building up the Berlin Post and expanding the country's tactical strength, remembering new endeavors for space. Stood up. To buy this response, Moscow, after the erection of the Berlin Wall, loosened up its tension in focal Europe. All things considered, the Russians currently tried to introduce atomic rockets in Cuba. At the point when this was found via air surveillance in October 1962, Kennedy forced a quarantine on all hostile weapons destined for Cuba. While the world shuddered near the very edge of atomic conflict, the Russians withdrew and consented to remove the rockets. The American reaction to the Cuban emergency clearly convinced Moscow of the pointlessness of atomic extortion. Kennedy currently battled that the two sides had an imperative interest in halting the spread of atomic weapons and easing back the weapons contest, a conflict which prompted the test boycott deal of 1963. The months after the Cuban emergency showed huge advancement toward his objective of a universe of regulation and free decision, banishing the universe of war and pressure. And quote, his organization consequently saw the start of new expectation for both the equivalent privileges of Americans and the tranquility of the world.